Alright, so this is a complete waste of time. I just thought it was funny that it started looking like an alternate mouth head thing, so I added these funny little features. So the head still pops in just fine, and when it's out for traveling, he'll have this head. Anyway, I've had this stuff sitting around my studio for years and never, I don't know why, just like someday I'll find an application for it. This may be that day. So this is just like obviously kids' clay, and it dries in the air, and it's super lightweight because weight is definitely a concern with this guy. And I just want to kind of fill in these features a little bit because why not? I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, obviously, because it's distracting from the bigger thing, but it's a chance to try this new material. Here we go. You can see it's kind of like a marshmallow. Smells funny. Oh, it smells like white glue. Just want to give them some, let's see, more of like a modeled out mouth interior. And some gums for his funny little teeth. And not surprisingly, this stuff does not blend into the area around it, which, given the subject matter I'm working on now, I don't really care about. I've got a little cartoon uvula hanging back there between the teeth, so it's kind of tricky getting this stuff behind it. want to see a really noob mistake, I detailed each and every one of these out before establishing the proper scale for them. So these are all like almost twice the size they should be, which means I now either have to start them all over from scratch or grind them down, which is close to the same. That's annoying. Another thing that struck me as I was examining the back that I'm building here is that these little wing bones, they stick out properly right now because he's bald, but the minute I get the fur that's probably going to be sticking out at least an inch, they're going to be almost buried, which means I really need to make them stick out more like this. I need to add about an inch of more bone material. So yeah, just the trials and tribulations of doing something new. So I think since I've already got these guys in little popsicle stick things, I'll just go ahead and grind them down. You know, some of this area in the middle might be salvageable. We'll see. So not being happy with the plasti paste, being overly concerned that I can't get a non-oily finish on it, which means the paint may not stick well on it. I tried something else. I called Smooth On and told them basically I needed a peanut buttery consistent paste, like plasti paste, that I can brush on to my sculpture and make a thin skin that I can texture and paint and stuff. So one idea that we came up with was using just some regular resin, that's what this is, that I have laying around already, and then filling it with Urafil 11. There are several different Urafil numbers, and they all have different properties. 11 is the one that thickens stuff. And so came in this big obnoxious bag, and so I transferred that just to a whey protein, empty protein bottle that I had. Probably should not be breathing this stuff. When I transferred it, I did it in front of my air suctioner box thing, so I'm probably not breathing too much of it. Oh, important side note, whenever you transfer stuff to other things, this is a mistake I used to make all the time. I didn't put the label on the thing. So right now in my garage I've got several just canisters and stuff filled with mysterious white powder I have no idea what to do with. Most of it is probably not cocaine. So let's give this a whirl. Oh, by the way, this resin that I have is onyx, which just means it's black. I have not had a lot of luck pouring this into molds. I was really hoping to mold the armor pieces and other things, because having a black base is just convenient. You don't have to, you know, if you're going to be dry brushing and you want black in the cracks, it's convenient to have the material actually be black. However, there were just too many bubbles. But bubbles do not matter for this really modelly, messed up skin texture that I'm wanting to do. So it seems like the perfect chance to use this old material I've had sitting around forever and you know, learn a thing or two. Something it says about the Urafil is that you're supposed to mix it in after you've mixed the two parts, which is weird. All the other mix-in stuff from Smooth On says to mix it into, you know, part A and then mix part A and part B, but not this stuff for whatever reason. So I'm just going to do a couple tests. I'll just, you know, plop some on this and see how it works. It's more than I need for a test. By the way, in general, resin products, all of these Smooth On stuff, you're not supposed to use after they've been sitting in your garage for several years. So my results are typically not ideal because of that, but the alternative is to wait until I need it to order it, in which case I'm waiting for a week or more, or going to the local store where it costs crazy amounts of money and they usually don't have exactly what I want. They've got some other version of it. Although that is how I discovered the brush on rubber, which turned out great. So whatever. Okay, so I'm going to first try this much, because why not? This is a really interesting powder. I think it's like micro bubbles, basically. It's not like just powder, like talcum powder or something. Let's see. Oh, I'm gonna want a brush, and I need something to start with. Okay. Now, one of the downsides to resin, of course, is that it has a very short pot life. It starts to cure in just 2 or 3 minutes, usually 5 minutes tops. They have a longer cure resin that goes for, I don't know, I think like 12 minutes or maybe 20 minutes, something like that. If it looks like this technique is not going to, or if this technique has promise, then I may invest in one of those longer pot life resins. We'll see. Okay, 3rd cup, mix it in. Here goes the powder. I should have used a thicker mixing tool. I don't have any. Wow, I did not come prepared. Okay, this one is too thick, but it's probably better to go too thick than too little. Okay, and I feel like that was about maybe 1/3 of the volume. The powder was about 1/3 of the volume of the resin, and it's still very, very pourable. You can see it's dripping down the side there, and I want something that's going to drip slower, if at all. Yeah, this is like not quite melted peanut butter, maybe melted ice cream. Let's see how long that takes to set up. Looks like it's got lumps in it where I didn't mix the powder in perfectly. Which is not surprising, there's not much time to do it. So it'll be interesting to see once this is all set up, when I sand those lumps down, is it going to be full of like white powder that's going to spill out? We'll see. I don't know why I'm blowing on it. That probably doesn't help. I'm going to poke at it in various areas as it sets, just to see if I can get an interesting texture, more interesting than the one it's got. I'll do one where I just dab, just a regular dab over the whole thing. Then I'm going to do this side, like kind of random smears. Let's see how that turns out. And then I'll do one that's got kind of the spots that he's got. You know, he's black and gray and white, and the darker spots look like, let's see, got my reference right here. I probably have my reference right, I have my reference somewhere. My reference exists, but apparently not here anymore. Well, here you can kind of see the modeled pattern. So it's got black splotches, white, and mostly gray. And it's kind of got a directional barky feel to it. So if there's a way that I can get that I should totally try. Wonder if I can just draw streaks in. And then once it's sanded down, maybe it'll have that barky look. There's always the option to do one layer, you know, with one technique like a streak, and then do another layer on top of that where I'm just dabbing over it to get the other mottled texture. This is where experimentation comes in. Okay, it's starting to set. This stuff has a much longer pot life than I remember, so that's kind of cool. Basically, the longer the pot life, the fewer micro batches I have to mix. It just gets annoying and uses a lot of material, you know, cups and stirrers and stuff every time you have to mix it, so it's nice to not have to do that constantly. I'm just kind of playing around with stuff, hoping to stumble across a happy accident. You never know when your tool's going to do some odd thing you didn't expect, and you come back to it later and say, oh my gosh, that's perfect for whatever it is. Speaking of which, let's try a different tool. Try this sponge and see if that gives me a different surface. That's going to be a really nice kind of even noise pattern around it once it's sanded. Right, you know, right now it's kind of lumpy and wavy, but once you sand down the peaks, then you see the valleys, and the peaks become like mesas instead of blobby lumps. I'm wondering if this Eurofill is maybe retarding the setting of it, slowing down the pot life. Or, like I said, these are super old, so it may be that one of the active ingredients is not so active anymore. I get a little bit different pattern when I press down hard and pull up than I do when I just kind of pat it. Makes me wonder if I used a fan brush. Oh yeah, look at that. That's getting some really nice subtle streaky texture. That is, it's both streaky, but it's irregular enough where it doesn't look like artificial. Yeah, it says the pot life on this is 5 minutes, and I think it's been 15 minutes. Feels like 15 minutes. It's been quite a while, and it is still pretty tacky. Which is good, assuming that it actually fully sets up. If it does not, I'm going to have to order more resin. That's going to be a bummer. But having all of this time to build up whatever texture I want on there is a huge plus, so I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. I'm just gonna let that sit for a while. Okay, I'm just going to let this sit for a while and come back to it and see how it turned out. Alright, it is now a couple hours later, and this is very interesting. I did not expect this. It looks like it swelled up, swellums, got bigger, lumpier, which that could totally work. I think what I'm going to do is, well, I'm probably going to end up hand sanding over all of this. So let's just give that a test and see how that works. So what's interesting is that I'm almost getting the paint job for free here. You can see the modeled pattern is pretty similar to what it looks like in the texture. Not exactly, but not far. And as I sand it down, I'm getting this lighter gray on top of this darker gray. I feel like I might be able to just do like a wash of black and then mop most of it up, and I might be about 90% of the way done with the surfacing if I use this technique. So that's pretty encouraging. I'm going to go ahead and try that painting idea right now. I'm going to try it now with mostly paint and just a little bit of water. I really want it to stay in the pits, the dark areas. And when it has so much water, it can easily get soaked up into the rag as I wipe it over. The paint does soak into the sanded surface really hard, so it looks like a wash isn't going to get me quite as close as I was hoping, but still very close. I'll probably end up just spray painting the whole thing with the black primer, and then maybe dry brushing to get the mid-tones and highlights. I think that's promising enough to go ahead and do a test batch on the actual surface. I'll start with his no-no spots, his swimsuit area, as it were, so that any screw-ups or whatever will just be covered by his beautiful bikini. So as you can see here, one thing I'm trying to do is keep as many separate pieces as possible, separate as long as possible. And that is because if I need to fix little things on there, sometimes with the painting, there's lots of reasons that it's very convenient to be able to move stuff around easily rather than have it attached to this 50-pound awkward thing. So that's why I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to keep, I decided for these bone pieces, it's probably worth embedding them as it is, just because the skin to bone junction, whatever, where the bone is extruding out of the skin, that kind of really needs to be mated very well. The armor pieces and stuff like that, not so much, so that should be fine. In this case, this back ridge, I can have the best of both worlds, where I've got the skin and the bone coming together really well, and then when I'm done with the painting and detailing and the sanding and stuff, I can put it on and then just do another layer right over that seam. So that's just in general. I'd say maybe art tip number 721 is keep your components separate as long as you can. In general. Is that fair? Is that a fair art tip? I think that's a fair art tip. Okay, back to skinning. Or whatever the opposite of skinning is, since I'm actually adding skin, I'm not removing it. I'm definitely going to need some kind of a solution for finally applying these pieces and having the skin look like it's realistically, or like this is realistically kind of clamping onto the skin, which usually will create a little bit of a roll of the flesh. You know, if I had an arm ring here, for instance, you see the skin kind of pushes away from it on each side. And so I want to be able to reproduce that. I think what I might do is I might get some black epoxy paste or epoxy sculpt, because I can pretty much simulate what this is doing really easily, but I can do it in much finer controlled areas. It's way more expensive than this bulk application, but since it's just around those areas, it should work out fine. And then when I sand it all down, I think it's gonna match that pretty well. We'll see. So here's another reason that I didn't want to have the back spine pieces on, is it just sits so nice and firmly without them. If they were on, it would be all wobbly back and forth. So I bought this sander. This is kind of the other one I was using is great for details and getting in there. I'd say it's like a medium detail, and this is like a medium large. There's an even larger, which is like my big portable belt sander one, but I don't think that's really going to be useful for this. So sadly they were out of the kind of sanding pad that is made for this, because this has like a Velcro tooth system, and the pad that I got is sticky. So see how this works? I don't know. Here we go. Yeah. Let's not breathe this. Shall we not? We shall not. Well, we shall not breathe much of it. Okay, now there's a few little spots I want to touch up where, while I was sanding down, it got down to the plaster underneath. And there's a few probably muscles and bulges I want to build up a little bit more, like, actually the knee cap's going to cover that, but the calves I'm probably going to build up a little bit, and some of the muscles on the upper torso as well. I kind of had a suspicion this might be happening a couple times. It was kind of nagging at the back of my brain, but it only just now really hit me full force once I put the armor pieces on. So what I now have to do is make a very difficult decision.